Hi, my name's John Howes, and this is Strokes version 3.9. Up to now, Strokes has functioned as a sequencer for external instruments, plugins, or hardware. But with this new update, Strokes can function as an entirely self-contained instrument using this new sampler page. To get you started, I've made a sample pack which has sounds from a machine drum, mono machine, Nord drum 2, and a few other instruments. You can download that by hitting this I in the corner and pressing download factory samples. That'll store it on your device as a zip file, then you just unarchive it. And then to access sounds, we go to the sampler page, press load a sample, and we can navigate to our sample folder and start loading in sounds. You can load in sounds from iCloud, or if you're on Windows, you can just drag and drop files onto those load buttons. So I'm going to load in a kick drum sample here. And you'll hear that whenever we get a note on channel 1, this channel 1 sample is going to play. So let's have a look at some of the parameters that we've got here. So if we drag the top half of the waveform, we can set the sample start point. And if we drag the bottom half of the waveform, it sets the end point. And this also turns the sample into a loop. And you'll hear that if I drag the end ahead of the start, the sample reverses. We also have an amplitude envelope, so we have attack and decay. The root note thing, I'm going to talk about that in a second. Next, we have a multi-mode filter. So this is in low pass mode. We also have band pass and high pass. Now you might hear there's some modulation on that filter already. That's coming from weights. So I flip over to the sequencer and I start to adjust this weights A value. And you can also see on the scope down here what the shape of that modulation looks like. And we can adjust the shape of that using these controls here. We also have two sends. We have a delay and a reverb. So I'll turn the reverb here. And the reverb has a high pass filter ahead of it. And then we can also control the size. Next we have a delay. So I'm going to load a sample onto channel 2 now, but first we need to put some notes in. Now you might be thinking, oh, it's kind of annoying to switch between the sampler and the sequencer like this, but we have this split view, and that lets us view the samples and the sequences at the same time. I'll pop some notes in here and load up another sample. Here I'm going to load in a chord sample from one of this from the factory pack. And if you have a look at the file name there, you can see that this is tuned to C minor ninth. So if I press the root note key, I can set that pitch here. And this is useful when we start to use note selects, because we can select the note select here and then sequence the pitch. And we can save these into slots. If you have a MIDI keyboard hooked up, you can actually set the note selects using a MIDI keyboard like this. You just hit this control in the bottom left corner, and then pressing notes here will assign the note selects. This kind of lets you use Strokes as like an arpeggiator. One other thing to mention as well is that this iPad and this desktop machine are both synced over Ableton Link. You access that by hitting config and select an Ableton Link down here. Next I'm going to load in a bass sound. Go to DX7, select this bass. We want to set the root note to C again. We'll set it in the note select as well. And let's punch in some notes here. Now you see these 4 sliders at the bottom, they correspond to the modulation buses. So the sampler is deeply integrated with the sequencer, and we can use the sequencer to modulate different parameters of each sampler voice. You've seen that already with the frequency on weights, but we can also use matrix. So I'm going to bring the decay down here. I'll bring up the decay slider here. Now if we go over to the sequencer, and I select channel 3, you see every time we get a note event on channel 3, this sequencer is going to advance. And this lets me input different decay levels per step. You can hear this is also happening on different channels as well, because matrix values are shared between all different sequences. Next I'm going to load in like a snap send. So with this sample we're going to look at modulating the delay level using matrix. So I turn this delay slider up, and it's corresponding to matrix 8. That's this sequence here. And you can see as it hits those higher values, it's sending more of the signal to the delay. These effects, the delay and the reverb, also have their own modulation lanes, so you can modulate the high pass of the reverb, the size of the reverb, the time of the delay, and the feedback of the delay. Let's do that here on the delay. So weights B is controlling the delay time, so if I start to put some values in here, you'll see the delay time is being modulated by weights there. And we can also modulate the feedback level. So just add a bit more modulation to all these voices. You can hear different sounds getting sent to the delay and reverb. And yeah, I'm just going to throw some more samples into the channels 5 to 8, which is the logic channels. Again, I'm going to tune these using the root node, and then set the pitch using the note selects. Let's change the rhythms up. Now everything that we've been doing so far is contained inside of one pattern. The pattern contains all the sequencing data and all of the sampler parameters as well. What that means is that I can switch over to another pattern and, say, reverse all the sounds. And then I can switch back to the pattern before, and all the sampler parameters will snap back. This also corresponds to the sequencing data as well. So I've added a bunch more triggers here, and now if I flip back to the other sample, you'll see the note, the sequencer information and the sampler information all changes together. Let's quickly make another pattern here. And again, I can just snap back to another pattern. So if I'm happy with this pattern, I can export it. I press the export button down here, and I can save this to iCloud, so I can share projects between devices. I can start a track on the iPad and finish it on my desktop, or vice versa. Give this a name. Now when it comes to importing these projects, we have three options. We can import the kit, patterns, or the project. So if you have a look at the UI here, it says project equals patterns plus kit. So a kit is the paths to all of our sample files and the root nodes. Everything else is stored in patterns. What this allows you to do is take a kit from one track and mix it with the sequences from another track, or take the sequences from one track and drag them into this project here. I'll show you how that works now. So we've got this set of sounds here. I'm going to import a different kit. I go to my project directory, which is on iCloud somewhere. These are all my different Strokes projects. So if I select a track from yesterday, and now I'm just importing the kit, only the sample files are going to get imported. So the pattern data hasn't changed, but we have a total different set of sounds. Likewise, I can just import the patterns from one track and keep the kit the same. This will also change the BPM of the track. And yeah, we set the BPM down here on the config page. And yeah, one final thing is that Strokes has a demo project loaded in. And to load that, you hit the I in the corner and press open demo project. Yeah, all the sounds from here are coming from that Strokes sample pack. In fact, everything that you've heard in this video is all coming from that Strokes sample pack. So yeah, this is a free update for iOS, Mac and Windows. It's a VST3 audio unit and a standalone application on iOS. It's available now. If you've got any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. And yeah, thanks for watching, hope you enjoy.
Thank you.